Well, if it's your goal to score Band 8 in Writing Task 2, you're in the right place because that's my goal too. I've made it my mission to help people just like you get the band score that you want and you need in the IELTS exam. And in this lesson, we're going to be taking a look at a very key, important part for Writing Task 2, which is making the best use of your vocabulary. So we're going to be talking in this lesson about 3 keys to lexical resource, and that's just the IELTS term for vocabulary, lexical resource. What's really important in Writing Task 2 is that you meet the criteria that the IELTS examiners are looking for. And if you want to know the criteria for each of the 4 components for every level from 1 to 9, you can look at these Writing Task 2 band descriptors. I've provided a link in the comments and you can have a good look at that. But we're going to focus in on Band 7 and we're going to work up from there because we want to look at Band 7 because this is a good place to start. And as you improve and you meet these criteria, you can reach your goal of an 8 band score. So there are 4 criteria for Writing Task 2, and each one is worth 25% of your score. And so you have to meet each of these criteria, the criteria that the examiners are looking for, not just what you or I might think make a good essay, but what does the examiner want to see in your essay. And the first is task achievement, which is simply to stay on topic and answer the question. The next is coherence and cohesion. And this is all about how you structure and plan your essay so that it's logical, it has a good flow, and gives a good argument for your opinion. And I've created videos for these, and you can see them simply by subscribing to this YouTube channel and finding everything you need for every type of IELTS question. There's hundreds of videos that you can look at and have all your questions answered when it comes to the IELTS exam. Another 25% is for lexical resource and vocabulary, which is what we're going to focus on in this lesson. And then in another lesson, you can find even more about grammatical range and accuracy, which is simply how you use your grammar and the effectiveness of your grammar for Writing Task 2. But we want to just focus in today on lexical resource, your vocabulary. And there's basically 3 criteria. You use a sufficient range of vocabulary to allow some flexibility and precision. If you have a level high enough for the IELTS exam in your English, which is usually a high intermediate to advanced level, I can tell you right now, you have enough vocabulary. You don't need more vocabulary. You just need to make sure that you use the vocabulary that you do possess in a flexible and precise way, which means a wide range and not making a lot of mistakes. So you'll use a few less common terms, and you may even have a few errors, but at least 50% of your sentences or more will be perfect, will not contain any vocabulary essays. So this is what you're looking for if you want to get above a Band 7. So let's look at the 3 keys. What are the 3 keys to making sure that you're using your vocabulary effectively in Writing Task 2? There, first of all, flexibility and precision. This means that you can take the vocabulary you know and you can use it in a way that you're not being overly repetitive with the same words over and over again, and that you're not making mistakes with your vocabulary. So let me just tell you a little tip here about this part of using your vocabulary. If you do have that high intermediate and advanced level of English, I can tell you that you probably have anywhere from 8 to 10,000 words in your vocabulary. And the problem is not having enough words. It's just making sure that you use the words that you know enough. So it's an interesting fact that no matter how many words we have in our vocabulary, on a day-to-day basis, we only use 10% of our vocabulary regularly. We tend to use the same phrases and the same words over and over again. So the key to improving your vocabulary for the IELTS exam is not to try and learn a lot of new words. It's just to try and take the words that you already know and use them more frequently. So I like to look at it this way. When it comes to our vocabulary, we each have our own bag of words. And usually on a day-to-day basis, we don't reach into that bag too far. We just take the words that are near the top and use them more often. So when it comes to the IELTS exam, it's just a matter of getting into the habit of reaching a little deeper into that bag and taking out some of the words that we know how to use, that we're familiar with, and just using them a little more often. And this will help us to be more flexible and precise. And then it's style and collocation, errors and spelling. We're going to go through each of these in detail. So when it comes to what I've just mentioned about your vocabulary and the number of words that you have in your bag of words and using them more frequently, don't make this big mistake that so many test takers make. Don't try to memorize academic word lists. Don't try to memorize hundreds of new words in preparation for your IELTS exam. This is a big mistake because what happens is you begin to try and use special words or fancy words only for the sake of using them. And I can tell you, the examiner will not be impressed. The examiner will know right away if you're using words that are not a part of your regular vocabulary because you won't use them in the right context or you won't use them accurately. So don't try to memorize fancy and academic words that you wouldn't normally use in your day-to-day interactions and communication and conversation. So what you should do is expand your own vocabulary. So reach a little deeper, take out those words that you are familiar with. And if you find that you're using words very frequently, instead of trying to learn new words, just try to remember synonyms and different phrases that can express the same thing. And this way, you'll be more confident and comfortable when it comes to your writing task 2, and you will get a higher score and maybe even the band 8 that you're looking for. So this is flexibility and precision, using words that are a part of your vocabulary already and using them more frequently and reaching a little deeper into that bag that you already possess. The next is style and collocation. And as I just mentioned, don't try to impress the examiner. We all have our own vocabulary. We all have our own way of expressing ourselves and communicating. And I want you to be confident in your own style of communication. The words and phrases that you use and find come quite natural to you. So again, don't try to impress the examiner with any fancy or special words. The examiner will see right through that. But instead, write naturally using your own words. I want to just explain what collocation means. Collocation simply means words that go together naturally. They're just natural words that fit together. And these are the way that you form your phrases in your everyday conversation and communication because you are using words and phrases that are familiar to you. And this again is the problem with trying to memorize academic word lists, because you won't put the words together properly in a phrase. You might be able to use the word, but do you put it with other words that it goes together with naturally? And this is a big mistake that IELTS test takers do when it comes to writing. You have to use the words that you're familiar with and that you know how to use. It doesn't matter if you have 1,000 words if you don't know how to use them, if you don't use them in the right phrases and in the right way and put them together correctly. So again, I would encourage you, and you will have the ability and you will have enough words if you're at that high intermediate to advanced level that you need to score a band 8 in writing task 2. So don't try to memorize academic word lists, hundreds of extra words and new words. Simply stay with your own bag of words and just reach in a little deeper and bring them out and use them in the way that you feel confident and comfortable. And this is what the examiner is looking for when it comes to your lexical resource. And the third key is to have as few errors and spelling mistakes as possible. And again, this goes back to what I've been saying throughout this lesson. Don't overextend yourself. And overextending yourself is when you try to use words that you're not in the habit of using. And this is where you're most likely to have errors, and especially with spelling, because spelling errors do count when it comes to writing task 2. And you may be able to memorize a lot of words, but then when you add making sure that you spell these fancy and technical terms and academic terms correctly, you're adding another burden that you don't need on test day. And by not overextending yourself, you just stay in your range of vocabulary that you can use confidently and comfortably. You know, the IELTS exam, the test day can be stressful enough. And the most important thing for test day is that you feel confident and comfortable. And by comfortable, I mean that you can feel relaxed and settled in and know that you're doing the best job that you can possibly do. So I hope you'll follow these tips about vocabulary. They will make a difference in your score and help you to get the score that you need. I hope that you'll watch the other lessons in this series about task achievement and coherence and cohesion and grammar. So subscribe to this channel and follow along, and you'll find everything you need for success on the IELTS exam.